the first time Kara saw the inside of a slave auction house. She thought she might vomit from the smell alone, unwashed bodies, fierce sweat, and something acrid she could not name but recognized as despair. She stood in line with 24 others, some human, some orc, most looking at the floorboards as though the grain of the wood might offer salvation from what was about to happen. Kara kept her chin up, because her mother had taught her to never bow her head to anyone. But her hands shook where they were bound at her wrists with rough hemp rope that bit into her green skin. She had walked into this place of her own accord 3 hours ago. Had signed the papers herself, pressing her thumb into ink that looked too much like dried blood. The man behind the desk had not even looked surprised when a 17-year-old orc girl came in alone and offered herself up for sale. He had simply slid the contract across the scarred wooden surface and told her the auction would be at sunset. Now sunset painted the narrow windows orange and red, and Kara focused on breathing slowly through her mouth. Behind her, someone was crying. She did not turn to look. If she saw their face, she might break, and she could not break. Not when Maya was lying in a sick bed back in the settlement, fever burning through her small body, the healer's words echoing in Kara's memory like a death knell. 200 gold pieces for the medicine from the capital. Nothing less will save her. 200 gold pieces might as well have been 200 stars plucked from the sky. Their father had died in the border wars. Their mother had followed him into the ground 2 winters past from the coughing sickness. Kara had been working the Anderson farm for 3 years, dawn until dusk, and had maybe saved 30 pieces total. She had gone to every neighbor, every merchant, everyone she could think of. Some had given what they could, a few silver, a handful of copper. It was not enough. It would never be enough in time. The auction house door had stood before her like the mouth of a beast, and she had walked inside anyway. The auctioneer was a fat human man with rings on every finger and a voice like gravel sliding down a metal chute. He lined them up on a platform, and Kara could see the audience beyond, farmers looking for field hands, merchants wanting servants, and others whose eyes held something that made her skin crawl. She stared over their heads at the back wall. "Lot 17, the auctioneer bellowed. "Young orc female, healthy, strong. Look at those shoulders, gentlemen. She could work a plow all day and not tire. What am I bid?" The words washed over Kara like filthy water. She thought of Maya's small hand in hers, her sister's voice saying, "Tell me the story about the stars again," even though she was 14 and too old for bedtime stories. She thought of how Maya's eyes had looked yesterday, unfocused and glassy with fever, and how the healer had shaken his head and said soon with the weight of the grave in that single syllable. 50 gold, someone called. 50 gold, do I hear 60? 60? The numbers climbed. Kara's heart climbed with them. 70, 80, 90. The auctioneer's voice rose with excitement. Someone bid 100, and Kara felt something loosen in her chest halfway there. "Maya, just hold on," and then another voice cut through the crowd, quiet but somehow carrying over all the noise. 300 gold pieces. The auction house went silent. Even the auctioneer paused, his hammer raised. Kara's eyes finally dropped to find the speaker, and she saw him standing in the back, a man perhaps in his late 20s, tall for a human, with dark hair and darker eyes. He wore simple clothes, a farmer's clothes, but they were clean and well made. His face was hard to read, expression neutral, but something in his posture suggested he was used to being obeyed. 300, the auctioneer repeated, sounding like he might choke on his own tongue. 300 gold pieces, going once, going twice. He waited, scanning the crowd for any challenge, but the room had gone still and strange. No one bid against 300 gold pieces for an orc slave. It was madness. Sold to the gentleman in the back. Kara's knees almost gave out. 300. More than enough for Maya's medicine and enough left over for food through the winter, for firewood, for everything. She sagged against her bindings as the auctioneer's assistant led her down from the platform. The crowd parted, and she found herself standing before the man who had bought her. Up close, he was younger than she had thought, though his eyes looked older. A scar ran along his jaw on the left side, faded but visible. He looked at her once, a sweeping glance that seemed to catalog everything, and then he turned to the auctioneer. "The papers," he said. His voice was low, rough-edged, like he did not use it often. Of course, Master Everett. Right this way." The auctioneer practically tripped over himself, leading the man Everett to the back office. The assistant kept a hand on Kara's elbow, not rough but firm, and she followed because what choice did she have in the office? Money changed hands. Kara watched Everett count out gold coins in neat stacks, more money than she had ever seen in one place. Her entire life's worth, measured and paid. The auctioneer produced papers, the contract Kara had signed, and now a bill of sale with Everett's name on it. The ink was still wet when the auctioneer beamed and said, "Pleasure doing business with you, sir. She's all yours." Everett took the papers, folded them, and tucked them inside his coat. Then he looked at the assistant. "Untie her." The assistant blinked. "Sir, untie her hands." But now. The rope fell away. Kara rubbed her wrists, green skin marked with red lines. She did not understand what was happening. Everett was already walking toward the door. He paused at the threshold and glanced back at her. "Come on," he said. "It's a 3-hour ride home." Home. The word was so absurd in this context that Kara almost laughed, but she swallowed it down and followed him out into the cooling evening air. Outside, the world looked the same as it had when she entered. The sun had set fully now, leaving only streaks of purple and gray across the sky. Everett's horse was tied to a post, a good sturdy mare, brown with white feet. He untied her and swung into the saddle with the ease of long practice, then extended a hand down to Kara. She stared at it, at his hand, at him. "Unless you want to walk 3 hours in the dark," he said. Not unkind, just matter of fact. Kara took his hand. His grip was strong, and he pulled her up behind him as though she weighed nothing. She had to wrap her arms around his waist to keep from sliding off, and the closeness felt strange and uncomfortable. He smelled like wood smoke and leather and clean sweat. They rode in silence. The horse's hooves beat a steady rhythm on the packed dirt road leading out of the town. Kara watched the buildings fall away, replaced by fields and then forest. The first stars were coming out, and she found the constellation her mother had taught her, the hunter's belt. "When you are lost," her mother had said, "follow the belt south and you will find your way home." But Kara was not lost. She knew exactly where she was. She was riding behind the man who owned her, toward whatever fate he had purchased her for. She tried not to think about it, tried not to imagine. She thought of Maya instead. The auctioneer would forward the money to the healer as instructed. She had made him swear it in writing. Maya would get her medicine. Maya would live. That was all that mattered. The miles passed. The moon rose nearly full and cast silver light through the trees. Eventually, Everett turned the horse onto a smaller path, little more than a track through the woods. Kara felt her heart start to beat harder, isolated. No one around to hear anything. Her mother's voice in her memory, "Never let them take you somewhere alone." Too late for that. The trees opened up onto a clearing and Kara saw the house. It was bigger than she expected, 2 stories, solidly built, with a barn and several outbuildings. Lamplight glowed in one of the downstairs windows. Fields stretched out to either side, rows of something growing in neat lines. It looked like a working farm, prosperous and well kept. Everett dismounted and offered his hand again. This time, Kara slid down without taking it, and he did not seem offended. He led the horse to the barn, and she followed because she had no idea what else to do. Inside, the barn was clean and organized. Two other horses occupied stalls, and chickens roosted in a coop at the far end. Everett unsaddled his mare with efficient movements, hung up the tack, and made sure the horse had water and feed. Then he turned to Kara. In the low light from the single lantern hanging on a post, his face was half shadow. He studied her for a long moment, and she forced herself to meet his gaze. Whatever he wanted, she would endure it. She had come this far. "You are probably hungry," he said finally. That was so far from what she had been expecting that she actually blinked. "What? Hungry? The auction house does not feed people. Did you eat today?" Kara tried to remember. Breakfast had been half a stale roll before she walked to the town. Nothing since. Her stomach chose that moment to growl audibly. Everett's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "Come on." He led her to the house. Inside was warm, the heat from a fireplace in what looked like a main room pushing back the night chill. The space was tidy but lived in a table and chairs, a sideboard with dishes, a bookshelf with actual books. Doors led off to other rooms. Everett went to the kitchen area and started pulling out food: bread, cheese, some kind of cold meat, apples. He set it on the table and gestured to a chair. Kara sat slowly, feeling like she had walked into someone else's dream. Everett poured water from a pitcher into 2 cups and sat down across from her. "Eat," he said. She ate. She had not realized how hungry she was until the food was in front of her. The bread was fresh, the cheese sharp and good. She forced herself to eat slowly, to not shove it in her mouth like an animal, but it was hard. Everett ate too, not watching her but not pointedly ignoring her either. When the edge of her hunger had dulled, Kara set down the piece of bread she had been working on and said, "Why did you pay so much?" Everett took a drink of water. 300 was what you needed." The words hit her like a fist to the chest. "What? For your sister's medicine?" The healer said 200, but you will need more for other things. Food, firewood for the cold months. He said it calmly, like he was discussing the weather. Kara's mouth had gone dry. "How do you know about Maya?" "I was at the Anderson farm yesterday delivering grain. I heard Mrs. Anderson talking about it with her daughter, about the orc girls whose sister was dying. How the older one had been crying in the barn asking if they had any work she could do for advance pay." He looked at Kara directly then, and his eyes were very steady. "I heard that the older girl never came back to the farm today, so I made some inquiries and found out an orc girl had sold herself at the auction house this afternoon." Kara's hands had started shaking. She put them in her lap, gripping her knees. "So you bought me out of pity?" "I bought you because 300 gold pieces is what you needed, and I had 300 gold pieces." He stood up, reached into his coat, and pulled out the papers from the auction house. The contract, the bill of sale. Kara watched as he walked to the fireplace. Watched as he crouched down and fed both papers into the flames. They caught quickly, curling and blackening, her signature disappearing into smoke and ash. The bill of sale with his name on it went the same way. In 30 seconds, there was nothing left but fragments that glowed orange and then faded to gray. Everett straightened and looked at her. "You are not a slave. You never were. Those papers are gone. Tomorrow morning you can walk out that door and go wherever you want." Kara could not breathe. Could not think. The words made no sense strung together like that. "I do not understand." "What is there to understand? You needed money to save your sister. I gave you the money. You do not owe me anything. You paid 300 gold pieces, and now the papers are burned. You are free." He said it like it was simple. Like it was nothing, Kara stood up so fast her chair scraped across the floor. Why? Why would you do that? You do not know me. You do not know Maya. We are orcs. Why would you? Her voice cracked, and she hated it. Hated the tears burning in her eyes. Hated that she was breaking now after holding it together for so long. Everett was quiet for a moment. Then he said, 6 years ago I was fighting in the border wars. I took a sword to the gut and got left behind when my unit retreated. I would have died there, but an orc woman found me. She was old, gray-skinned, and she had no reason to help a human soldier. But she dragged me to her camp anyway, stitched me up, kept me alive. When I asked her why, she said that there had been enough dying and she was tired of it. He touched the scar on his jaw absently. I do not know if you are related to her. I do not know if she is even still alive, but I learned something from her. Sometimes you help people because it is the right thing to do. No other reason needed. Kara's tears spilled over. She could not stop them. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking, and all the terror and desperation of the day came pouring out in great gasping sobs. She cried for Maya, for herself, for the kindness of a stranger that she did not know how to hold. She cried until she had no tears left and her throat was raw. When she finally lowered her hands, Everett was still standing by the fireplace, giving her space but not leaving. He held out a cloth and she took it, wiping her face. "There is a room upstairs," he said quietly. "First door on the right. It has a bed and a lock on the inside of the door. You can stay there tonight or you can leave now if you prefer. It is up to you." Kara's voice came out hoarse. "If I stay, what then?" "Then in the morning we figure out what you want to do. Maybe you go back to your sister. Maybe you want work to keep earning money. Maybe something else. But it will be your choice." It will be your choice. Kara had not had a choice in so long, not since her mother died. Not since Maya got sick, not since desperation had driven her through the door of the auction house. "I will stay tonight," she whispered. "If that is all right, it is all right." Everett moved toward one of the other doors, then paused. "My name is Everett Lawson, by the way." "In case you want to know, Kara," she said. "Kara of the Red Hills clan, or I was before my mother married my father and we moved to human lands." He nodded. "Good night, Kara. Good night." The room upstairs was small but clean. A bed with actual blankets, a chest at the foot, a window with curtains. Kara locked the door, then sat on the bed and stared at her hands. Green skin marked with rope burns. Hands that had signed away her freedom. Hands that were now free again because a human man had burned the papers without asking for anything in return. She lay down fully clothed and pulled the blanket over herself. Sleep came in fits and starts, pulled under and then jerked awake by dreams she could not quite remember. When dawn light finally crept through the curtains, she got up and unlocked the door. Downstairs, Everett was already awake. The smell of cooking food drifted up, and Kara's stomach reminded her that she was still hungry despite last night's meal. She descended the stairs slowly, not sure what to expect. Everett was at the stove frying eggs in a pan. He glanced up when she appeared. "Morning. There is tea in the pot if you want some." Kara poured herself a cup, wrapping her hands around the warmth. "You are being very kind." "I am making breakfast. It is not particularly kind, just practical." But there was the tiniest hint of humor in his voice. They ate together again, and this time the silence was less heavy. When the meal was finished, Everett pushed his plate aside and looked at her seriously. "So, what do you want to do?" Kara had been thinking about this since she woke up. "I need to get back to Maya, make sure she gets the medicine, make sure she is all right." "That makes sense. I can take you back to town or to wherever she is." "She is at the healer's house on the east side." "The healer's name is Marcus." Kara hesitated. But after I know she is all right, I need to work. I cannot just take your money and disappear. It is not right." Everett leaned back in his chair. "I told you you do not owe me anything. I know what you said. But I am telling you that I will not take charity. If you want to help me, then give me work. Pay me a fair wage. Let me earn what you have given me." He studied her for a long moment. "You are stubborn." "Yes, fine, I need help with the farm. My hired hand left a month ago to get married and move north. I have been managing alone, but harvest is coming and there is more work than one person can handle. I can pay you standard wages and provide room and board. When you have worked enough to cover what you feel you owe, you can leave." Does that sound acceptable? It sounded more than acceptable. It sounded like hope. "Yes. Then we have an agreement." Everett stood and offered his hand across the table. Kara shook it. His grip was firm and warm, and for the first time in days she felt something other than despair. They rode back to town that morning, Kara once again seated behind Everett on his horse. The journey felt different in daylight, shorter, less frightening. When they reached the healer's house, Kara slid down before the horse had fully stopped and ran to the door. Marcus the healer answered her knock. He was an old man with kind eyes and hands that always seemed to smell of herbs. When he saw Kara, his expression shifted to relief. "Kara, I was worried about you. Come in, come in." Maya was in a small room at the back of the house, lying on a cot. She looked impossibly fragile, her green skin pale and waxy, her breathing shallow. But when she saw Kara, her eyes opened wider. "Kara," her voice was barely a whisper. Kara knelt beside the cot and took her sister's hand. "I am here, little star, I am here. Where did you go? You were gone so long. I was getting help. Maya, listen to me. We have the money for your medicine, all of it. Marcus is going to make you better." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "How? Do not worry about how, just focus on getting well." Kara smoothed Maya's dark hair back from her forehead. Her little sister had taken after their father, dark-haired and dark-eyed, where Kara had their mother's red-brown hair and amber eyes. "I am going to be working at a farm about 3 hours from here. As soon as you are strong enough, I will come get you and we will be together again. I promise." "You always keep your promises," Maya whispered. "Always." Marcus had been standing in the doorway, and now he stepped forward. "The auction house sent the money this morning along with a note about where to forward the remainder. I have already started preparing the medicine. With proper care, she should recover fully in 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. Maya would live. The knowledge hit Kara like a wave, and she had to close her eyes against the force of it. When she opened them again, she squeezed Maya's hand gently. "Rest now. I will come visit as often as I can." Outside, Everett was waiting with the horse. He did not ask if everything was all right. He could clearly see it in her face. They rode back to his farm in silence, and this time when Kara wrapped her arms around his waist to steady herself, it felt a little less strange. The days fell into a rhythm after that. Everett woke before dawn, and so did Kara. They worked the fields together, harvesting the last of the summer vegetables and preparing the soil for winter wheat. Everett showed her how he wanted things done, and Kara learned quickly. She was strong, orc strong, and could carry loads that would have made a human stagger. At first they worked mostly in silence. Everett was not a man of many words, and Kara was still trying to understand him. But slowly, gradually, they began to talk. Small things at first. Everett mentioned that he had inherited the farm from his uncle. Kara told him about growing up in the Red Hills before her mother fell in love with a human trader, and they moved to the borderlands. In the evenings, they ate dinner together, and sometimes Everett would read aloud from one of his books while Kara mended tools or prepared vegetables for the next day's meals. She discovered that he liked poetry, of all things old epics about heroes and quests. His voice was nice when he rayed, the rough edges smoothing out. Once a week, Everett took her to visit Maya. The girl was improving steadily, color returning to her cheeks, strength returning to her limbs. The medicine was working. By the third week, Maya was sitting up on her own and complaining about being bored, which Marcus said was a very good sign. "When can I leave?" Maya asked during one visit. "Another week, maybe two," Marcus said. "I want to be sure the fever will not return." Kara looked at Everett. They had not discussed what would happen when Maya was well enough to leave the healer's care. Everett met her gaze and gave a small nod. "She can come to the farm," he said. "There is room." "I cannot ask you to. You are not asking. I am offering. Besides, harvest will be in full swing by then, and we could use another pair of hands, even young ones." Maya, who had been watching this exchange with bright, curious eyes, said, "Is he your husband?" Kara choked on nothing. Everett coughed. Marcus suddenly became very interested in organizing his medicine cabinet. "No," Kara said firmly. "He is my employer. He gave me a job." "Oh." Maya looked between them with an expression that suggested she did not entirely believe this. "He seems nice." "He is nice," Kara agreed, feeling her face heat. Orcs could not blush the way humans did, but she felt warm all the same. On the ride back to the farm, Everett said, "Sorry about that. Your sister has an imagination. She is 14. Everything is a romance story at that age." Kara paused. "But thank you for saying she could come to the farm. You did not have to do that." "I know I did not have to. I wanted to." Kara did not know what to say to that, so she said nothing. But she found herself smiling as they rode through the darkening fields. Harvest began in earnest as autumn arrived. The days were long and hard, dawn to dusk of constant work. They brought in the wheat and the corn, the squash and the pumpkins. Everett hired 2 men from the nearby village to help for a few weeks, and the farm was suddenly full of noise and activity. Kara worked alongside everyone else, and she noticed the way the hired men looked at her, at first wary, distrustful. Orcs were not common in these parts, and those that were around were usually trouble, or so the stories went. But Kara kept her head down and worked harder than anyone, and by the end of the first week, the men's attitudes had shifted. They were not friendly exactly, but they were respectful. One evening, after the hired men had gone home to the village, Everett and Kara sat on the porch steps watching the sun set. They were both exhausted, muscles aching, but it was a good kind of tired. The barn was full of grain, the root cellar stocked with vegetables. It had been a successful harvest. "You are a good worker," Everett said, "better than any hired hand I have had. You are a good teacher. Patient." Kara stretched her legs out, wincing as her knees creaked. "How much have I worked off so far?" Everett was quiet for a moment. "I have not been keeping track." "You have not?" Kara turned to stare at him. "Everett, you were supposed to be keeping track. That was the agreement." "The agreement was that you would work until you felt you had earned what I gave you. I said you could leave when you felt that debt was paid." "I did not say I would be the one measuring it." "That is not fair." "Why not?" "Because you will never tell me when it is enough. You will just keep saying I do not owe you anything." He smiled, a real smile this time, and it transformed his face. "Maybe." Kara wanted to be angry, but she found she could not manage it. Instead, she shook her head. "You are impossible." "So I have been told." They sat in comfortable silence as the sky turned from orange to purple to deep blue. Kara had not felt this content in a very long time, maybe ever. She thought about her mother, wondered what she would say if she could see Kara now working for a human, living in his house, laughing at his jokes. Her mother, who had loved a human enough to leave her clan for him, would probably understand. "Tell me about the woman who saved you," Kara said suddenly. "In the war." Everett's smile faded, but not in a bad way. He looked distant, remembering. I do not know if there is much to tell. I was bleeding out in a ditch. She found me, and I thought she was going to finish me off. We had just burned an orc encampment after all. But she just looked at me and said, "Stupid boy." Then she dragged me back to her camp. What was her name? Graka. She had these scars on her arms, ritual scars in patterns. She told me they were marks of her family line. He paused. She kept me hidden for 3 days while I healed enough to travel. Her clan would have killed me if they found me. When I was strong enough, she pointed me toward the human lines and told me to go home and stop being stupid. Did you ever see her again? No. I looked for her after the war ended, but I never found her camp. I do not know if she survived. He looked at Kara. But I think she would have liked you. You have the same kind of stubborn strength. Kara felt something shift in her chest, something warm and frightening and impossible to name. I am glad she saved you, she said quietly. The world is better with you in it. Everett's eyes widened slightly, and for a moment Kara thought she saw something in his expression, surprise maybe, or something more. But then he looked away and said, "We should get some sleep. Early start tomorrow." "Right, yes, sleep." Kara stood quickly, too quickly, and almost tripped over her own feet. Everett caught her elbow, steadying her, and the brief contact felt like a spark. They went inside and said their goodnights. Kara lay in her bed upstairs, staring at the ceiling, and tried very hard not to think about the way Everett's hand had felt on her arm, or the way his smile changed his whole face, or the way her heart had started beating faster when he said the world was better with her in it. This was ridiculous. She was being ridiculous. Everett had saved her and given her work out of kindness, nothing more. He was human and she was orc, and even if there was something between them, which there was not, it would be impossible. Humans and orcs did not end up together. It did not happen. Except it had happened. Her parents had proven it could happen. Kara rolled over and pulled the blanket over her head. She would think about this tomorrow, or never. Never was also a good option. Maya came to the farm a week later. Marcus declared her fully recovered and cleared for normal activity, though he cautioned against overdoing it. Everett drove the wagon to town to pick her up, and Kara came along. Maya looked like a different person than the pale, fevered girl from weeks ago. She was bright-eyed and energetic, bouncing on the wagon seat and asking 100 questions about the farm. What animals did Everett have? How big were the fields? Was there a garden? Could she help with the cooking? Everett answered each question patiently, and Kara watched him with Maya and felt something melt inside her. He was gentle with her sister, almost brotherly, and Maya clearly liked him immediately. When they arrived at the farm, Maya explored everything with boundless enthusiasm. She loved the chickens, was fascinated by the horses, and declared the room Everett had prepared for her to be the nicest room she had ever had. It was right next to Kara's, small but cozy, with a window overlooking the fields. That night after dinner, Maya climbed into Kara's bed and snuggled against her side the way she had when she was little. "I like it here," Maya said, "and I like Everett. He is very kind." "He is," Kara agreed. "You like him?" Kara's heart did a complicated flip. "Of course I like him. He gave us both a home." "No, I mean, do you like him?" Maya looked up at her with knowing eyes. "The way Mother liked Father." "Maya, it is all right if you do. I would not mind. He would be a good match for you." "It is not that simple. Humans and orcs people do not. Mother and Father did. And Mother's clan disowned her for it. Father's family never spoke to him again. They lived on the edge of society for the rest of their lives." Kara's throat felt tight. "I will not put you through that. You have been through enough." Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Mother always told me she never regretted choosing Father. She said love was worth any price. Mother was braver than me." I do not think so. I think you are the bravest person I know. Maya yawned, exhaustion from the journey and excitement catching up to her. Just think about it, all right. Kara held her sister as she drifted off to sleep, and thought about it even though she did not want to. Thought about Everett's quiet strength, his unexpected kindness, the way he read poetry in the evenings and smiled at Maya's chatter. Thought about the way her heart beat faster when he was near, the way she had started looking forward to their mornings working side by side in the fields. This was dangerous. This was foolish. This was going to end badly, but she could not seem to stop feeling it anyway. The autumn weeks passed. Maya settled into life on the farm with ease, helping with the cooking and the cleaning, feeding the chickens and collecting eggs, chattering constantly about everything and nothing. Her presence changed the house, made it feel more like a home, and Everett seemed to enjoy having her around. He taught her to play chess in the evenings, and the two of them would sit at the table locked in intense concentration while Kara watched and mended clothes. The weather grew colder. The first frost came, silvering the fields. Everett and Kara worked to prepare the farm for winter, reinforcing the barn, chopping wood for the fireplaces, preserving the last of the food. They fell into a partnership that felt natural, each anticipating what the other needed, working together like they had done this for years instead of months. One afternoon, they were in the barn repairing a stall door that had come loose. Kara was holding the board in place while Everett nailed it, and she found herself watching his hands as he worked. Strong hands, capable hands, scarred from years of labor. She wondered what those hands would feel like holding hers, not in a handshake but in something more. Kara. She jerked her attention back. What? I asked if you could shift the board up a little. Right, sorry. She adjusted her grip, feeling foolish. This had to stop. She had to get control of herself. But then Everett said, "Are you all right? You have seemed distracted lately." "I am fine. Just thinking." About you," she did not say. "About us, about how much I want there to be in us, about how terrified I am of what that would mean." "About winter," she said instead. "Whether we have enough firewood, we have plenty. I overstock every year." He finished with the nail and stepped back to examine their work. There. That should hold. They stood there in the dim barn, hay dust floating in the shafts of light from the windows, and Kara felt the moment stretch between them like something physical. Everett was looking at her, really looking, and she saw something in his eyes that made her breath catch. "Kara," he said, and his voice was different, softer. "I need to tell you something." Her heart started pounding. "What?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then he shook his head. "Never mind. It is not important. Everett, we should get back to work. Daylight is wasting." He turned away, and the moment broke. Kara wanted to grab his arm, make him turn back, demand to know what he had been about to say. But she did not. She just picked up the next board and got back to work, and tried to ignore the way her hands were shaking. That night, she lay awake for hours. Something had shifted. Something had changed. The air between them felt charged, electric, like a storm building on the horizon. She did not know what to do about it. Did not know if she should do anything about it. In the room next door, Maya was asleep. Safe and warm and healthy. That was what mattered. That was all that should matter. But Kara's heart was a traitor, and it wanted more. The first snow came in early November, just a light dusting that melted by afternoon. But it was a promise of what was coming. Everett went to the village to stock up on supplies that would be harder to get once the roads became difficult. And he took Maya with him because she wanted to see the village market. Kara stayed behind to tend the animals and work on some repairs that did not require two people. She was in the chicken coop, replacing some of the nesting straw when she heard horses approaching. Multiple horses, moving fast. Kara straightened, her instincts prickling. Something was wrong. She stepped out of the coop and saw them 5 men on horseback, rough-looking men with weapons at their sides. Raiders, probably the kind that haunted the border regions looking for easy targets. They saw her and reined in their horses. "Well, well," the lead man said. He was big with a scarred face and mean eyes. "Look at this, boys, an orc all alone." Kara's hand tightened on the rake she had been using. It was not much of a weapon, but it was something. "This is private property, you need to leave," the man laughed. "Private property," she says. "You hear that? The orc thinks she has rights." He swung down from his horse and the others followed suit. "See, we heard there was a farm out here doing well. Thought we would come see what we could find. Was not expecting an orc, though. That is a nice bonus." Kara backed toward the house, mind racing. 5 men. She could fight, but the odds were not good. If she could get inside, bar the door, maybe hold them off until Everett returned, the lead man lunged. Kara swung the rake, caught him in the shoulder. He grunted and grabbed the handle, yanking it from her grip. Then his fist caught her across the face and she went down hard, ears ringing. "Stupid greenskin," he spat. "Should have stayed with your own kind." Through the haze of pain, Kara heard one of the other men say, "Boss, maybe we should just take what we came for and go. That human who owns this place might come back. Then we will deal with him too. Besides, I want to teach this orc some manners first." Kara tried to get up. A boot caught her in the ribs and she gasped, curling around the pain. This was bad. This was very bad. She thought of Maya, of Everett, of all the things she would never get to say. Hoofbeats, coming fast, a shout. "Get away from her, Everett." Kara managed to lift her head and saw him riding hard toward them, Maya clinging on behind him. He did not slow down, just drove his horse straight at the raiders, scattering them. He was off the horse before it fully stopped, a heavy staff in his hands, the kind farmers used for walking rough ground, but solid enough to be a weapon. The lead raider swung at him. Everett blocked with the staff and brought the other end around in a vicious arc that caught the man in the knee. He went down with a scream. The other raiders surged forward, and Everett moved like nothing Kara had ever seen, fast and controlled and absolutely focused. He was not a farmer in that moment. He was a soldier. 2 more raiders went down. The remaining 2 exchanged glances and ran for their horses. The lead man, clutching his shattered knee, screamed after them, "You cowards!" But they were already riding away. Everett stood over the man, staff raised. "Leave. Now. Tell your friends what happens to people who come here looking for trouble." The man crawled to his horse, managed to drag himself into the saddle and rode off, leaving his 2 unconscious companions in the dirt. Then Everett was at Kara's side, dropping to his knees. "Kara, let me see, I am all right." But her voice sounded weak and her ribs screamed when she tried to sit up. "You are not all right. You are bleeding." He touched her face gently where the raider's punch had split her lip. His hands were shaking. "Maya, get inside and bring the medical supplies." Maya ran. Everett helped Kara to her feet, supporting most of her weight, and got her into the house. He settled her in a chair by the fireplace, and when Maya returned with the supplies, he started cleaning the cuts on Kara's face with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone who had just laid out 3 men in as many minutes. "You should have run," he said quietly, angrily. "Should have hidden. It is your farm, your home. I was not going to let them destroy it. It is a farm, Kara, wood and nails. It does not matter. You matter." His hand stilled on her face, and he looked at her with such intensity that she forgot how to breathe. "Do you understand me? You matter. Everett, if something had happened to you," his voice cracked. I could not," and then he was kissing her, or she was kissing him. Kara did not know who moved first, only that his lips were on hers, careful of her split lip but full of desperate relief in something else. something that felt like it had been building for months. She kissed him back, ignoring the pain, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. A throat cleared. They broke apart to find Maya standing in the doorway, holding a bucket of water, trying very hard not to smile. "I will just be outside, checking on the horses, for a while." She set down the bucket and fled. Kara and Everett stared at each other. His face was flushed, his hair disheveled where her fingers had tangled in it. Kara imagined she looked similar. "I am sorry," Everett said. "I should not have. Do not apologize." Kara's voice was fierce. "Do not you dare apologize." "Kara, this is we are," he struggled for words. "This will not be easy, you know that. Humans and orcs, people will not accept it, I know. Your clan might disown you. People in town already talk. It will get worse. I know. It might be dangerous. I know." Kara reached up and cupped his face in her hand. "I know all of that. And I do not care. My mother chose love over everything else, and even though it was hard, even though they were outcasts, she never regretted it. She was happy. I want that, Everett. I want to be happy. With you." His hand covered hers, pressing it against his cheek. "I have been trying not to feel this way. Trying to be honorable, to not take advantage. You came here in such a desperate situation, and I did not want you to think you owed me anything, or that you had to. I do not feel obligated. I feel," Kara searched for the right words, "I feel like I found something I did not know I was looking for. Like home is not a place, it is a person. You are my home, Everett Lawson." He kissed her again, slower this time, tender and careful and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "You are my home too," he whispered. "You and Maya both. This farm was just a place until you came here. Now it is everything." They sat there by the fire, holding each other until Maya cautiously poked her head back in. "Is it safe?" she asked. "It is safe," Kara said, smiling despite her split lip. Maya grinned. "Finally. I thought you two would never figure it out." The two unconscious raiders woke up eventually, and Everett sent them stumbling down the road with a warning to never come back. He reported the incident to the village constable the next time he went to town, but border justice was loose, and raiders were common enough that nothing much came of it. Still, Everett kept weapons closer to hand after that, and Kara learned to use the staff he gave her. The winter settled in properly after that, the world turning white and cold. The three of them were snowed in for days at a time, and the house felt cozy and warm, full of laughter and conversation. Everett taught Maya to read better, working through his collection of books with her. Kara learned to cook human dishes under Maya's enthusiastic instruction, though her first attempt at bread resulted in something that could have been used as a weapon. In the evenings, after Maya went to bed, Everett and Kara would sit together by the fire. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just held each other. Sometimes they kissed until they were both breathless and aching, but they went no further. Everett said he wanted to do things properly, to make sure everyone knew that Kara was not his servant or his property, but his equal, his partner. When the midwinter thaw came, brief but enough to make the roads passable, Everett rode to the village and returned with a small box. That evening, with Maya as their witness, he got down on one knee in front of the fireplace. "I know I should ask your father," he said, "or your clan elders. But I do not know where your clan is, and your father is gone, so I am asking you. Kara of the Red Hills, will you marry me?" Kara's eyes filled with tears. "You know what this will mean. The talk, the judgment, you will lose friends. Then they were not real friends. Kara, I am asking you to be my wife. Will you say yes?" "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, absolutely yes." The ring was simple, just a band of silver, but it was the most beautiful thing Kara had ever seen. It fit perfectly on her finger. Maya cheered and threw her arms around them both, and they stood there in a three-way embrace, a family formed not by blood but by choice. The wedding happened in spring. The first green shoots were pushing up through the earth, and the world smelled of renewal and possibility. Everett wanted to have the ceremony in the village, in the small chapel there, but the priest refused to marry a human and an orc. Several other holy men said the same. Finally, they found a traveling minister, an old man who had spent years in the borderlands and had seen enough of life to know that love was love, regardless of species. He agreed to perform the ceremony at the farm. Not many people came. A few neighbors who had grown to respect Kara, some of Everett's fellow veterans who remembered their own debts to orc healers and helpers. Marcus the healer came, bringing Maya a bouquet of flowers. Mrs. Anderson from the neighboring farm came with her daughters, and she hugged Kara and told her she was proud of her. Kara wore a dress that Mrs. Anderson had helped her make, simple but beautiful, the color of cream with green embroidery that Maya had painstakingly stitched. Everett wore his best clothes, and when Kara walked out of the house to meet him in the field where they had set up the ceremony, his face went soft with wonder. The minister's words were simple. Love, honor, cherish, in sickness and in health, for as long as they both lived. Kara spoke her vows with a steady voice, and Everett spoke his, and when the minister said they were married, Everett kissed her in front of everyone, and Kara did not care that some people were probably scandalized. She was married to the man she loved, and that was all that mattered. The celebration afterward was small but joyful. There was food and music, and Maya danced with anyone who would dance with her. As the sun set, Everett pulled Kara aside away from the crowd. "Happy?" he asked, incredibly. "Good." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "I want you to be happy every day for the rest of your life." "I think that can be arranged," Kara said, smiling. "As long as you are there with me. I am not going anywhere." They stood together as the stars came out, the same stars Kara had looked at that night on the road from the auction house, when her future had been so uncertain and frightening. She had not known then that she was riding toward love, toward home, toward happiness. But somehow she had found it anyway. The years that followed were not always easy. There were people in the village who never accepted them, who muttered about greenskins and monsters and unnatural unions. There were times when Kara felt the weight of their judgment, when she wondered if maybe she was selfish for putting Everett through this. But then she would come home to find Everett and Maya laughing in the kitchen, or she would wake up with Everett's arms around her, or she would see the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in his world, and the doubts would fade. Maya grew up strong and healthy, and when she was 18, she fell in love with a boy from the village, a carpenter's son who was kind and hardworking. Kara and Everett gave them a piece of land on the far edge of the farm to build their own house, and Kara watched her sister get married with tears of joy in her eyes. More orc families started moving to the area, refugees from the ongoing conflicts in the north. Some of them heard about Kara and Everett, about the orc woman and the human man who had made a life together despite everything. A few came to ask advice. Others just wanted to know it was possible. Kara and Everett became something of a symbol without meaning to. Proof that the divide between human and orc did not have to be permanent. That love could bridge even the widest gaps. On the 10th anniversary of the day they met Everett had bought her freedom and burned the papers Kara, and Everett took a walk together through the fields they had worked for a decade. The farm was thriving, the house was full of life, and they had built something real and lasting. "Do you ever regret it?" Kara asked. "Spending all that money on a stranger?" Everett laughed. "That again." Kara, we have been married for 9 years. I know, but still. 300 gold pieces was a fortune. Best money I ever spent. He pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. I got you, did I not? I would have paid 10 times that much. You are impossible. And you love me anyway. I do, Kara said softly. I really, really do. They walked back to the house hand in hand as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Inside, the lamps were lit and smoke curled from the chimney. It looked like something from a storybook, the kind of happy ending that did not happen in real life. Except it did happen. It was happening. Every single day. Kara thought about the girl she had been, walking into that auction house with her heart breaking and her hands shaking. She thought about how she had believed she was trading away her future to save her sister. She had not known that she was actually walking toward the best future she could have imagined. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes. Sometimes you found family in the most unexpected places. Sometimes a stranger's kindness changed everything. And sometimes, when you were very lucky, someone saw you at your lowest moment and decided you were worth saving, not because they wanted something from you, but simply because it was the right thing to do. Everett had given Kara her freedom that first night. But what he had really given her was a chance to choose her own path. And she had chosen him, chosen this life, chosen love over fear every single day since. As they stepped into the warm glow of their home, Maya was already there with her husband, setting the table for dinner. The house smelled of bread and stew, and when they all sat down together, passing dishes and sharing stories of the day, Kara felt her heart swell with gratitude. This was family. This was home. This was the life she had fought for and found, and it was more than she had ever dared to hope for. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Kara looked around the table at these faces. She loved Maya laughing at something her husband said. Everett smiling that soft smile he saved just for family moments like this. 10 years ago, Kara had sold herself to save her sister, and the man who bought her had burned the papers that very night. He had given her freedom when she expected slavery. He had given her love when she expected nothing. He had given her a home when she had nowhere else to go, and in return, she had given him her heart, her trust, her whole self. They had built a life together from ashes and hope, from kindness and courage, from the simple belief that love was stronger than prejudice, stronger than fear, stronger than all the forces that said they should not be together. They had proven everyone wrong. And they would keep proving them wrong every day for the rest of their lives. Kara reached under the table and took Everett's hand. He squeezed back, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, a gesture so familiar and comforting that it felt like coming home every time. This was her happily ever after. Not perfect, not easy, but real and true and earned, and it was worth everything,